Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Noha Nayeri.
And I'm Scott McCandless. It is the week of March 27th, and this is your Monday briefing. The House and Senate are scheduled to depart at the end of this week for a 2-week spring recess. This week, the House is scheduled to consider a bill to promote U.S. energy production through provisions that include changes to permitting and project certification rules. Also this week, the Senate is scheduled to continue consideration of legislation that would repeal the authorizations for use of military force against Iraq. The House Ways and Means Committee will hold a March 28th hearing on the President's FY24 Health and Human Services budget and a March 29th subcommittee hearing on welfare reform. The Senate Finance Committee will hold a hearing on March 29th and on March 30th that focuses on healthcare and prescription drug issues.
So last week, the IRS and Treasury issued proposed regulations on the 25% advanced manufacturing investment credit that was enacted as part of the CHIPS Act. Joining us today to discuss this guidance is Sara Logan. Sara, welcome.
Thank you.
So Sara, the CHIPS Act was enacted back in August of 2022. So it has been a little bit of time. Do you mind just provide us with an overview on the CHIPS Act and of course specifically with respect to that 25% investment credit?
Absolutely. So the CHIPS Act in general is trying to address something that really came to light during the pandemic, and that is our global supply chain of key elements for U.S. manufacturing. And so the various incentives are intended to encourage taxpayers to locate specific types of manufacturing facilities in the United States. And the CHIPS Act Section 48D does this via a federal investment tax credit. So it's a 25% credit on semiconductor manufacturing and semiconductor manufacturing equipment facilities. So that means that taxpayers would be able to get 25% against any qualified investment that they make in those facilities in the U.S. There are specific recapture provisions that apply if those taxpayers then go on to expand their manufacturing capabilities in foreign countries of concern, and that's a 10-year look-back period. So again, looking to really solidify our domestic supply chain of these key manufacturing components.
And Sara, one of the things that companies always talk about is certainty, maybe even clarity. Do these regulations provide, or does the guidance provide any certainty or clarity? And what's the key significance of the guidance?
Well, that's a really great question. These are proposed regulations, so they're not in effect. Taxpayers are not required to comply with them. However, these regulations do have reliance language. So to the extent that taxpayers find that they are reasonable, they fit their circumstances, these regulations can be relied on this year now for facilities that are being placed in service through whatever date final regulations are published in the Federal Register. However, the IRS and Treasury did request expansive comments on the guidance. So it's not to say as though these are the final rules and this is what you have to live with.
Okay.
So now that the proposed regulations are issued, are there any specific recommendations that you have for taxpayers?
Absolutely. There's a 60-day notice and comment period that the IRS is offering to taxpayers. So to the extent that there's anything in here that's concerning or that taxpayers feel strongly about, they definitely should review the proposed regulations and consider submitting comment letters or even requesting to speak at a public hearing.
Sara, it's great to get some information about this particular guidance, but of course, we're always looking for more. So is there any more guidance that might be coming, either on this specific issue or on other issues?
Absolutely. So shortly after the CHIPS Act passed, we also got the Inflation Reduction Act. And again, many credits and incentives for investment in clean manufacturing and really reducing carbon in the U.S. Sure. And so we've gotten guidance from the IRS that says, hey, maybe sometime this week, we're going to have more to hear on the clean vehicle credits. Okay. Those are really important as well because of the domestic content requirements Sure. as part of those credits. So again, really looking at that U.S. supply chain and saying, is it resilient? Is it able to provide the intakes that taxpayers need to comply with those rules?
Makes sense.
That's great. Well, Sara, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out the latest Week in Review with Mark Prater, included in the description of this episode. And stay tuned for this Friday's Week in Review.
And to our viewers, as always, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.